Hello, hello, hello. How are we all doing? Back in the studio, we were in Greece last week and it was a little bit of a makeshift sort of scene chat. But we're back in here now and we are good and we're fresh to go. I've got the laptop with me now, so I've got my questions with me, can read them properly. Got a few things I want to go through today. Hope everyone's well. And again, if you are enjoying these, again, please share them with your mates. I think that this is good subjects that we cover, and if you're a real lover of dance music, it's quite an interesting conversation to get involved with, and that's what the key part of all this is. It's getting involved. When I say that, I mean obviously, if we're talking about something and you've got your sort of thoughts on it, then absolutely get involved and say, I think this or I think that, because what I'm going to do start going forward is if there's someone with a really interesting hot take on something that I talk about in here, I'm going to make it a subject of conversation as like a sort of retrospect. So, if someone comments on this video after the fact of the video going out, next week or the week after, if it's a good enough opinion where I'm like, oh, this is an interesting take. I'll definitely sort of talk about it and look from that point of view and look at the understanding of how you've approached it. Hope everyone is well. Today we're going to be talking about planning your DJ sets in 2026. It does sound a little bit mundane. I say mundane, but you know what I mean. But I just want to see what other people's approach is to this. This is a topic of the week that I've picked, and I want to walk you through how I do it. I'm quite methodical in my planning, as you will see in a second. How I plan my DJ sets in 2026, and when I say plan my DJ sets, I'm using the terminology extremely loose. As we've talked about many times before on this show, I don't really plan my DJ sets, but you've got to come with some level of preparation if you're a DJ and you turn up at a club, and which we'll get into in a second. We've got a couple of questions to get through this week as well that's been asked in. For those who are interested, the pissed off parrot has returned with a really interesting question. So that's another one for this week. Just so you are aware, next week the music reviews will be returning on Scene Chat. I did try and get them to return this week, but I told people too late. So if you're a producer and you've got some new music you want to share with us, and have the listeners review, I'll review it. I'll sit in and review it. Send it in, and we'll take a listen. Really up for doing that again. It's just that we got so bogged down in the questions. I think we at one point we were like 85 questions behind the show, so I just wanted to play catch up so people's questions were actually being asked. We're still quite in the depths of that, but I realised we haven't reviewed any music in a while. So, hope everyone's well. We'll just jump straight into today then. What this is my topic of the week is planning DJ sets in 2026. So, we'll start from housekeeping to begin with. I want to know, what other people's takes is on this, but USB is obviously the thing that everyone uses in 2026. Gone are the days of CDs. I've got a CD wallet. This is, again, part of the plans side of things. I have got a CD wallet in my car as a backup that's got, what I would call my residency tunes on. When I used to have a residency in GL3, when I had a residency in TJ's Bar, which is Brown's Bar, and it was all the tunes from that era. I think that's as latest as it comes up. Obviously, when I was playing places like North, or when I would be playing the early Sanks, if I was playing, out and about on the bounce circuit, they're the sort of tunes I'll be carrying around with me in my DJ wallet. They are always there as a backup because never be surprised in this scene, with things failing or turning up and having some really out there ridiculous gear. So that's one thing that I do think about. And before anyone comments and says, are you double backed up? Do you bring vinyl as well? I'm like, no, I don't bring vinyl to a gig. I've got vinyl if it's needed, but again, I haven't played vinyl out in a club in about 12 years, I think. Maybe no, about 11 years. So that goes to basically tell you, how often that is. I do enjoy playing vinyl at home, but it's just something that's just no longer really played in clubs. I'm sure there'll be the which there often is. The flurry of vinyl only nights that do pop up every now and again. Whether I'm booked for them or not, I don't know. So that's the only really reason I'd ever play vinyl in a club again. So, like I say, here we are in 2026, and times are always continuously changing. I think probably if we were having this conversation in 10 years' time, I think USB will still be used, but I think it may be down to the whole streaming thing that I've noticed that's starting to come into clubs and stuff. But I think USB is going to be here for a long time just yet. So, what does that actually look like? Anyone who knows me and has seen me play live will have seen the setup I've got. I've got a bag just over there, and within the bag I've got 8 USBs, all color coded. So I know my light green one is hard house. I've got I think it's like 64 gig of hard house on there, ranging between classics and new stuff. Which whenever I get new hard house, I update and put it on there. I've got a red USB, which is old school and piano house, Italian, sort of anything ranging from say 89 through to 97-ish. That's all just like all classics and things like that. I've got my my teal blue coloured one. That's my trance classics on there. Again, that comes out more often than you think as well, because within that I've got my trance classics ranges from about 95 to I would say probably 2007 ish. And that does come out quite often, because if you've seen my sets live, you'll have seen maybe one or two. If I'm playing warm up, certainly you'll have heard me play some trance classics. So I've got what other USBs have I got? I've got 2 silver USBs which have essentially the duplicates of each other, and they're both 64 gig. And they have my sort of like bounce classics on there. Again, they used all the time. So they've got me Alex K bits on there. It's got my hypersonic stuff. It's got my quadrasonics. It's got Friday Night Posse. It's got all sort of the stuff that you would see in my CD wallet. Essentially, it's basically the backup of that. I've got 2 of those because I always carry backups. I do have, as well as my 8 sort of archive USBs I have with the range of stuff that I play. And obviously I've got a Tech House one, because I do play a bit of Tech House in clubs as and when. Funky House, what else? I'm trying to think of what else there is in there. Because again, the sort of Tech House ones and things, they're kept up to date to a certain extent. I don't play a lot of Tech House out, I don't update it as much as I should. I probably update it maybe once every 6 months, but that's because there's no demand there for that. And then I've got, which is these ones here. So these ones are the same as the other silver ones I've got, but they've got the strings on. These are my here and now USBs. So all of the stuff on here is all up to date tracks. So my process as a DJ in 2026, and this covers hard house, hard trance, hardcore, techno, bounce, anything under that sphere of hard dance goes onto there. And the way I organise it in obviously like subgenres and times of the night. So I've got like warm up tunes on there. I've got peak time tunes, graveyard tunes, etc., etc. And within that, I update them every single Monday. So whatever I download that week will be going onto there in some form. Whether that is it's a warm up tune that I've downloaded that's gone onto there, and okay, get that in the warm up section. And then you might think, oh well, what's the need for all the USBs? I'm gonna get into that in a second, and I'll tell you why there's so many USBs needed. And then I've got within these, I've got black SanDiscs. They are exclusively production ones, the stuff that I've got. So there's the Manic stuff on there, the Brad Riffresh stuff on there, and all my other aliases that I produce music with. Obviously, they come out as and when, but this is the thing, when it comes to organisation, I tend to put, if I've got any new Manic stuff or anything like that, they go on these anyways. So, but they're just there as an emergency. I've actually turned up to somewhere to play, and someone's requested one of my like back catalogue tunes. I think I released it in like 2015, and it's not sitting on them currently. So it's always good to just get them out, stick it in, and play. The tune that I have in mind was On the Move, if you can remember that one. I did that under the FTBM alias. It did alright within sort of hard dance scene. That was a collaboration with Digital Mafia. So that was the tune that got requested when I was playing for a guest slot in 135 one night. It was quite big in and around the era when I used to play in there. So so that's the sort of the basics. And when I say that, that's very, very surface level stuff. That covers everything I'd need for my DJ sets. Obviously, people's as DJs are a little bit different. Once you break through that surface level on these new USBs here, I've got maybe 2 or 3 versions of certain tracks that I really like. As in, like, it's the same. Let's, for argument's sake, say Alex K, the Beat Pounds, right? Everyone knows that tune. But I'll play the club mix of that. I've got 3 versions of that. I've got the original, which is everyone knows. I've got my edit of it, which is literally just shortened down to the I think it's like the first 2 bars and whatnot, where you mix in, and I've used it as like a quick transition when I'm moving it from one to another, and it's something I play quite a lot. And then I've got a 3rd version as well that's got it's got an extended loop on. Yes, I could just use hot cues, but I know my tunes inside out, so my USBs. This is where I differ from other DJs. I don't really use hot cues as much. So on version 3, I've got on that edit of that. It's I just call it like a Brad Riffresh extended edit, and it's got the beatbox in the that at the beginning, the beat that bit there. It's got that extended for, I think it's for about 4 bars. And it's just for when I'm mixing and just trying to be fancy and clever with it. I do that to quite a lot of tunes. So that's like, if you're going to start breaking down, what's the contents of actually on these USBs. I do have in some cases 2 or 3 versions of the same track for different reasons. Whether it's a quick mix one, whether it's the full original track, or whether it's a longer, fancier style mixing thing. Worst impression of the beat pounds there that I've just done, by the way. And I've got a smaller USB as well. It's got acapellas on, but I honestly never really pull them out. If I ever think about pulling them out, I'd tend to just do quick mixes anyways, if that's going to be the case. So that's the basis of where we are, right? What I'm going to say next is I'm going to build a scenario. X promoter reaches out to you and says, "Hi, you okay? Want to book you for a DJ set?" I always find the parameters of what that is first. So when you booked, what is it you're going to be playing? Is it a classics event? Is it upfront music? Is it, is there a certain theme you're going for the evening? What are you actually looking for from myself? I don't bombard the promoter with a million questions. I just say, what is it you're looking for from me? And if they just say, just do you, then that's cool. But like, if they're looking for a production set, obviously I've got to keep that in mind. If they're looking for, a warm up, they go, listen, we want to put you on warm up. you know, that's cool. I know what I'm going to be doing there, or if it's, if I'm going to be on graveyard shift, it's graveyard shift. So then I look at the event I'm playing at and the clientele. And that gives me an idea of what I'll be playing that night. I don't really plan anything unless there is a brand new banging tune and it's an upfront bounce night where I'm like, I need to squeeze this in. That's as far as planning goes. I used to always plan my first tune, and I noticed, just this is through experience as well, that you can never really plan it unless you're the sort of headliner for it. Like I played gigs, a few smaller club gigs, where I've turned up and I've been the sort of special guest for the evening, and I can start with something I had in mind because they've come to see me essentially. But what I tend to find is, some of the last sets that I've been playing, I could be on. Let me think. So the last DJ set that I played, some of the last ones. Wow, we're going back a while. But Gary K was on before me, and he played Piano House. And this is a good example. Gary's a really good DJ, and he's got a wide range of what he plays. But he said to me when we were getting the set times for the gig, he was like, "Oh, what are you going to play? Like, what have they asked you to play?" And I got asked for trance classics, and he was like, "Oh, well, they've asked me for Piano House." Okay, right, that's cool. With that in mind, I'd always start with a crossover track, something that's a bit piano-y, and fits that sort of trance genre as well, depending where he leaves me. If he leaves me at 1-1-3-5, I'm gonna have to play something a little bit that would mesh with that. I wouldn't play a banging trance track to take over on the decks. Do you know what I mean? So if I'd pre-planned that, through experience, you soon learn that you've just got to just wing it up until the exact moment you're playing it when you see that room in front of you. And that's what brings me into the next part in a second, which is reading the crowd. So anyways, in my head, if I was going to say I'm absolutely planning my set, in my head, what I've got in mind here is, okay, Gary's playing Piano House, this is where I need to be. Plans change, vibes change, DJs with experience change the vibe up. Like Gary, very good DJ, and read the crowd perfectly well. On that gig, I turned up. At the time he was playing Piano House and stuff, but he actually did pick up the pace a little bit and started playing a little bit of trance at the back end of his set. So if I was planning on playing a transition track as my first tune, that would have been out the window. So it actually made my life a little bit easier because I could come in and play something a little more banging, which I believe I did. I can't remember what I started with, but I certainly played a banging sort of trance tune, 1-3-8-ish, to kick things off on my end. So, plans do change in that regard. I can give you 101 examples of, when things didn't go to plan. I'll share this with you as well. This one's really good. And you know something? Somebody else making the calls on this probably made me into a better DJ. I played for Sanctuary for 12 years, I think it was. Yeah, about 12 years. And over the time I've been there, and this is me, behind the curtain here. When it comes to set times, I think I'd say 60% of the time, I think my set will be altered slightly, set time. Sometimes it was drastic, sometimes it wasn't. It was just down to, other DJs' availability, and basically I can't even say the word. Circumstances of the night. So what I mean by that is, I was booked. I'll give you a couple of examples. I was booked to do warm up, one New Year's Eve as an example, and I turned up, and I think it got switched around last minute, and I ended up doing last hour instead. If I'd pre-planned my set, I'd have been playing warm-up tunes on last hour. So this is why I need to stress to DJs that not every DJ set and every tune that you play is one size fits all. So when you rock up at 8 p.m. to do a set, nobody wants to see you play hard bass at 155 BPM. Play warm-up tunes. Okay, you're not going to look like the big superstar DJ that you think you want to be, but you're hired for a role. If you go in there, and again, I'm not gonna shit on anyone and say it needs to be done like this, because I've turned up at gigs where I've thought, right, oh well, I'm on at 10, and that's the first hour it's open. I'll be playing, or second hour it's open. I'll be playing sort of warm tunes. But the DJ before me, I've turned up and they've noticed, or I've noticed, the crowd are actually wanting it faster and banging more early on. You can see the need for it on the faces of some people on the dance floor sometimes. So you might end up playing warm up set times where you do play it a little bit faster. I doubt you're going to be playing absolute peak time, like thumpers. But there is times and places where you capture the energy of the room, and you walk in and you're like, okay, these guys are coming to go 150 miles per hour here all night. And I won't be playing all out banging, but I'll certainly speed that BPM up and the energy of the tunes. Again, that's just through reading the room. And then again, like I said with the Sanctuary issue, where I will be like, okay, you've been now playing at this time. Okay, well, luckily I've got my 8 USBs with me, where I'm able to dig into what's in there, or I've got my brand new stuff with me and go, oh, them new tunes that I bought last week that I thought I wouldn't be able to play because I thought it was on warm up. I can actually test these ones out now. So it's all about adaptation, and I think in the year of 2026, this is where I'm seeing a skill gap. So, and again, this isn't a dig at anybody. I want to make that clear. There's DJs who are proficient mixing, beat matching, know the tunes to an extent, and can do that. But the skill gap I'm seeing is the role of what they're there for. They think they're going to be booked, right? Okay, I'm booked to play, this gig at this time. Know your role. Look at who's on around you. Have knowledge of the DJs on around you as well. That's my one tip. So that's in that side of things. There is a couple of other things I'd like to cover with this as well, and that is obviously went over what the room is, what the venue is, the area as well. The area massively makes a difference. I know, as an example, and I know other DJs can attest to this, I can get away with playing a couple of Italian pieces or Spanish hard dance in my neck of the woods, say like Cumbria and that sort of area. If you were in somewhere like Wigan, Burnley, and you're a peak sort of bounce night, right? They are less inclined to let you get away with, say, playing an Italian tune in a bounce set or a Spanish hard dance tune. They want it more sort of offbeat, donk orientated, which is perfectly fine. But then, let's say you're playing in Liverpool and you're playing a classic set in Liverpool. There's a good chance they don't want to hear that banging donk all night. They want to hear the original versions of those tunes. A good example would be if I was going to be playing, 4 Strings Take Me Away. The version I'd play in Wigan wouldn't be the same version as I play in Liverpool, or a classic night versus a normal donk night in Wigan. And again, there is times where that changes. Like, let's say I'm playing peak time in Liverpool, and the vibe is it's more donk orientated. Then play the Alex K mix. Or I'm just trying to throw out ideas of what that actually means. This is me just thinking out loud, to be honest with you. But this is where you've just got to be sort of on your toes with things. I've seen DJs who've been booked for an event, like a club's classic event, and they've turned up with all sort of, your Alex K remixes and things like that from his back catalogue. And the DJs that's been on before them have been playing sort of, more, I would call it more scousey, like Scouse House and whatnot. And the vibe has been on. And then these guys have went on and have just played 4 or 5 donk tracks in a row. And they've cleared dance floors. Yes, you booked for a technically a donk night, but it wasn't the right time to be pulling those out. And I've seen that happen like countless times. And again, when the shoe's on the other foot, I've seen DJs come and play like a warm-up set and play more scousey when the crowd have been wanting more sort of donk and in-your-face stuff, and the DJ hasn't really read that room and thinking they should be, taking the time with it. Yes, okay, there is thought behind it of going, give it time, let them get into it. But if a crowd are really, really wanting that sort of tougher edge stuff, you've got to give them what they want. And that's the be all and end all of it. I've talked about obviously freedom you have, location's a big thing, like I said a second ago, wherever you are, there's stuff that you need to rely on. Signature tunes, if you've got signature tunes, the crowd, that there's people in the crowd who've come to see you play those tunes, don't hold back on playing your signature tunes. Yes, you might have played them like 1,000 times, but as long as you're not playing the same set over and over and you pull out the one that people have come to see you for, then absolutely go for it. What else have I got in here? This is a real pull behind the curtain, this one for me, and I'll share this with you. Okay, in my opinion, let's say I'm booked for an upfront bounce night. I've got a bit of a formula that's not really, I'm going to use percentages here, but it's not really something I stick to. But I don't want to be the DJ who's there's a balance of this, and I'm going to share this with you. There's the DJ who turns up and plays all upfront new stuff, all literally come out that week, and they've got their finger on the pulse. But no one in the crowd knows the tunes because they're brand new that week. Right. That's cool, but people want to dance to stuff that they know. Which, this type of DJ I'm describing, there isn't many of these, if any, now in the bounce scene, because everyone just tends to just play it safe. And I think this is why the scene's a little bit stagnant. And then on the complete polar opposite end, you've got the DJs who don't play new music. They just play the same set that's tried and tested, tired and tested, worn out and tested. Sets where it's like, okay, let's play the same 10 big tunes that we've played for the last 10, 15, 20 years. This is how I sort of plan my set, and again, it's loose. So just bear in mind, if I'm booked to play a new bounce, right? I turn up. Oh, sorry. This is how I tend to sort of go. I tend to go 60%. I'll say about 60% to 70% stuff that's established and people know. And that includes my signature tunes. That includes, if I'm playing a couple of like throwback remixes, a couple of my own productions, things like that. Between the 30 and 40% that's left over, I sprinkle in that 60%, if that makes sense. So I'm not playing 60% stuff that everyone knows, and then at the end of the set playing stuff people don't know. I'll blend it all together. And, let's say, just for the easy maths, let's say I play 10 tunes in a set, which that's never the case, but let's say we play 10. I'll play maybe 2 tunes that people will more than likely know, and then I'll just throw in like a brand new one, because that's how you break tunes and make tunes, because you just slip it in and people's like, oh, okay, right, what's this? This is mixing into a tune that I already know, but what's this that's playing? And that's how you make it familiar, and that's how it becomes a staple of your sets. And then I'll go back to other tunes that they know, and then after another couple of tunes, I'll play something and that sort of testing the water again. And with all of this, throughout the set, you'll have sprinkled in 4 or 5 new tunes. Oh, sorry, if we work on percentages, 3 or 4 new tunes that no one's heard, and you've sort of been able to test on the dance floor. That's how I work that. So I'm keeping the crowd happy. I'm still reading the crowd and playing the tunes that they want to hear. I'm playing tunes that they didn't know they wanted to hear, that I think. And again, out of the new tunes I play, does everything always work? No, it doesn't. But when it works and it's like, oh, what is this? You're the DJ who's then broke that tune, and that's how you become a reputable, respected DJ. You don't get a reputation and respect from playing the same 20 tunes over and over again. There's this false sense of oh, this guy's really good, but then everyone's like, oh yeah, they're really good for 6 months to a year, and then they never get booked again, because once you've seen the set once, you've seen it 1,000 times, and there is people who've just faded into the darkness. Like, oh, I remember that person. It's like, oh yeah, because they were just like a drop in the ocean, because they did the same set every time because they played it safe. If you are a hungry DJ and you're one of those club gigs and you want to play out more, this is what I do. You 60% stuff that people know, 40% stuff that's new, and you sprinkle it in all together just to keep the vibe on. This is where I then spice it up a little bit more. If you are playing a banging tune that everyone loves, hands in the air, or bass face, depending on what type of the vibe it is, you mix in this new tune and you notice that go, and this has happened to everybody, when you die on your ass, where you go, oh, this really isn't resonating with people. It's not often it happens, but it does happen, where there's just no reaction sometimes, and it's just like, oh, okay, this isn't working. Make sure that you are planning 2 or 3 tracks ahead, because if you're playing a tune and you sort of lose the energy of the dance floor because they don't know the tune, they're not really feeling it. Be prepared for that quick mix out because the thing is, you need to keep the energy of the dance floor up, okay, and then move on to the next. If you test and tune out and you're like, right, I wonder how this is going to go, and all of a sudden you just start to see, like, the one way a DJ will always, and this is always down, and this is even to the best of the best out there, they're always looking for, they'll always put a face on and go, I'm dead, and I'm not bothered what people think. But I've worn a lot of people down in this scene, and I've spoke to them, and people open up to me, and all of them are their own worst critics, and they all lack self-confidence. I will share this with you now and say that people will play a set and they'll make out like, oh yeah, I'm not that frustrated, whatever. When you speak to people and you actually break it down, they're really like, oh, did that work? Did that really work? Like, I'm not feeling it. And by the way, I'm the same. I own that. I say, oh, did this actually work? I'm my own worst sort of thing in that I pick mine apart more than a critic would. But these like faces who try and play hard face, that they're trying to say, did this work or didn't this work? And the reason of why I'm saying this is if a tune comes on, right, and this, to me, in the year of 2026, this is when you have smashed it. Because for me, I don't want to, like, it's nice for you when you get off and your peers go, man, that was fantastic, whatever. That's good with gratification, whatnot. The real gratification is seeing the dance floor full, taking your headphones off, handing the decks over to the next DJ with a full dance floor. That's when you know you've done good. So that's when you know you've done. But that's picture it like a job. If you do that and your job is to keep a dance floor full, that's not you going, you've smashed that, mate, you've smashed it. No, you've done the job to the standards expected. That's why I'm quite harsh on myself, and might come across as why I'm quite harsh on others, because the standard you're setting is that should be a full dance floor when it's done anyways, or 80%. You should have 80% of the people in that venue on the dance floor. Because it could be a quiet night, but if you've got them all on the dance floor, you're doing the job right. And anyways, this is, I'm sort of getting off subject there. What I'm saying is the big one in 2026 where I'm like, oh, I've done good there. And I don't know if the other DJs measure this by this. If you play a new tune and it gets a reaction, and you know, the first time you play it, it's not often that you get an absolute people going bananas to it, but they're like, oh, I'm feeling this. The biggest compliment you can get is seeing a couple of phones out and that Shazam logo, people Shazamming the tune because they don't know it. That to me is you're doing it right. If you've got ravers in there going, I need to know the name of this tune, you've nailed it. That's a big compliment, I think. And when you see that in action, fantastic. I mean, if you're just gonna be playing, I don't know, if you're gonna be playing fucking just a stereotypical classic and you see someone with a Shazam mount, I mean, I wouldn't take that as a compliment. I just take it as they're not very well educated in the tunes. But again, you obviously playing the right tunes if they want to listen to that again. So it's somewhat thing. But if you play a brand spanker and it's, you know, first time you've heard it played out in a club, and they're out with the Shazams, you've done all right. You've done good. You'll get respect from me anyway. Let's put it that way, because at the end of the day, it's not really the DJs who's standing behind you who you're trying to impress. It's the people on the dance floor who go, I want to remember this tune and listen to it again because this DJ's played it. And that's how you become and build your reputation up as a DJ, I believe. I'm not going to get into the breakdown of people record box and things like that. I personally don't use record box. I still use File Explorer on my computer, which people tell me off for when we play back to back, because they can't see all the information. I've literally just got the track titles on my thing, and there's no like waveforms. There's no like when it loads up, it's not, you know, what is it, quantized and things like that. I get told off a lot because of that. Let's see. I want to set a little. This is my last one. This is one point I wanted to go over before we finish. This part of it is what a mix CD or a radio show differs from a live set. With my Manic Sessions, I can play a range of everything. So the radio show last Friday of every month, by the way, if you listen. I can play anything on there because guess what? You can turn it on, turn it off whenever you want. If you don't like it, you can skip it. Whatever. Cool. So I can play a bit more experimental on there. That versus a club set. You'll never hear me play a Manic Sessions radio show style set in a club because there's stuff on there that will fall on its ass, because this is what it is. You're testing the ground with different styles, different musics, and breaking new ground. Same goes for when you hear certain DJs play like signature mixes and stuff. I don't turn up, and I know ravers do, so don't get me wrong. I don't turn up expecting a DJ to play, that mix where you mix it out at this time and it mixes in with the track perfectly. People have signature mixes and that's cool, but don't turn up and you know, essentially re-record a CD that you put out tune for tune, mix for mix, because one, you're not reading the dance floor. That's the main problem. Two, it's kind of boring. Like, maybe do one signature mix. Like I've done that in the past. Anyone who's seen me, like one of my signature mixes I did for a long time was DJ Lara. I Love You. I used to mix that with a certain tune a few years back. And a lot of people have said to me in the past, "Oh, will you do that mix live?" And I'm like, "It's not. You know, there's a time and a place for it. I can't just pull it out randomly." Or the way that I mix Simpson Strings by Yo Amanda. Everyone else, to where they bring it in, they bring it in on the do 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 and that bit there. I always had when I played in when I was resident in Gallagher's years ago, I used to play that, and I'd done that mix that many times playing that tune. I'd always mix it on the drop, because so for instance, it's a really long mix when you do it like that, but it become a signature mix. When people would hear me playing around with the volume fader and bringing the tuning on the breakdown and pulling it back. People knew what was coming. Those who were regulars, who were attending the parties every week, they knew that was going to be a signature mix of mine, and the payoff's massive on it. But it's not something I'd always play. But as a DJ, this is how you differentiate yourself from people. And I always remember I did. This is a little good story that I'll finish up on here with regards to this. I did that mix so many times. I knew that it worked in my area. That and I did it in bounce clubs as well, and I always got a decent reaction. I got booked to play in Hong Kong, 2013, I think it was, and it was a guy who's known in the scene local to me. He was like, "Hi mate, see you out in Hong Kong. Mates wants to know if you want to come do a set." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll go and play this club." It was a club called Mezzamiz, and I had everything stored on MediaFire, I believe. Like I've always had backups on the cloud, always forward thinking. So I just went down to electrical store and got. I think at the time it was maybe CDs. It definitely was CDs, because I remember I turned up and they had a DJM 2000. No, was it 2000 Nexus, the one with the screen thing in the middle. So like the faders, volume faders were quite separated. Really like that mixer. A lot of people didn't like it, but I quite like that mixer. They had that, and he was playing CDJ 100s, the silver ones with the small platter, the CDs still. So I knew I had to go and get CDs because he told me when he had the setup. And like I say, preparation is key. So anyways, I downloaded a whole load of tunes, and I was playing a bit of like house / scouse at the time. So at the time, I remember the Melbourne sound was quite big, so I knew I'd be able to get away with playing bits of that there because that was universally known. And then with that, I did that, playing that, and I was throwing odd scouse bits in there as well that I knew that would maybe get like a bit of a reaction. Because you've got to remember, if you're out in Hong Kong and you play, from the example before, 4 Strings Take Me Away, these people don't know these tunes, so you can't expect them to react in the same way as a crowd in the northwest of England would. So that was one thing I was having to be conscious of when I was playing. So when I was just burning CDs, I thought, you know what, I'll be able to play, if the vibe is right in the club, I'll be able to get away with playing synth and strings because it's universally a good instrumental tune, and I'm willing to take the risk of playing the signature mix that I did at the time, and I think it'll work. And I remember, I was about 80% into my set. I think I played about 2.5 hours, so I was about 2 hours, 10 minutes into my set. And I'd played, a bit of scout stuff, a bit of Melbourne, a bit of piano-y bits, and I remember thinking, you know what, I'm going to do it, because, what's the worst that could happen? The club's rammed, I'll just quickly mix out if it's not going to work. And I did the signature mix where on the tune was still, it was like a Melbourne tune that was playing, and the drop was still playing, and I was cutting, and I was doing the do-note, and I seen there was like area of like these Jamaican guys who were on holiday at the bottom left. They picked up on what the tune was, and they were coming over like, what the fuck, and I, as DJs do, you get into that little bit of a show off mode. So I was doing the cutting and the cutting, and the tune built up perfectly into this Melbourne, what was going to be a Melbourne drop, and I was doing the cutting. And he's going do and you build up, and I just it did like a vocal drop, and then pull the volume down, and it was dun, and the player's best reaction of the night. Would I have done that off the back of none of this years of experience? Would I? Fuck, you wouldn't do that. You're asking to empty the place, but because you've trusted the system, you've got the experience, you've seen it work, you've seen it not work, you've seen it work somewhat, and then you can make that judgment call of, is this crowd ready for this, or do they know? Will I get? Because it could have just went flat, not flat. It could have just went. The energy could have stayed the same, and they would have not even noticed the difference. Which probably 60-70% of the club didn't really know the difference when the tune dropped. But the small pocket who came over, who were absolutely buzzing about it, you could see that their energy was infectious, and it sort of lightened up. Like the rest of the dance floor started getting bang into it as well. So I let it play out and whatnot, and that's really memorable for me. That because that's a signature mix which I'd done over and over and over and over again, all to different results every time. And the one time where I'm like, this is going to make or break it, and I pulled it off and it worked, I was like, that's why people have signature mixes. To show people who've never heard this music, as I say, a whole load of people in that room would never have heard Simpson Strings, but to hear it to be brought in that way in that time, I'd like to think that out of that crew of the Jamaican crew that were there, one of them will remember that and go, I watched this DJ, I don't know who he was in Hong Kong, and he was he was doing this particular mix. You could tell they were lovers of the music as well, and you remembered for it. Obviously, if you're in the Northwest and you're a DJ who's playing regularly out in the clubs, and you do that mix and people lose their shit, and you do a signature mix and people lose their shit, they'll remember your face. It's like, this DJ is my guy, and that's what makes a good DJ, in my opinion. I spent a while on that there, but I think it's a real good topic. I really do. I think that it's interesting. I think it makes for good discussion, and I would really like to know what your thoughts are. If there's DJs listening now, do you prepare in the same way as I do? If not, have you got other ways of doing it, and what that actually is? Let me know, because I'd be really interested to know what that is. And if you are a DJ who's fairly new and you're taking that on as a bit of advice, then that's something I'm willing to share, and hopefully that people take that on. And even if they don't do it exactly the way I do it, and they take one piece of nugget of information where they go, oh, I want to try doing it, like that one thing that you mentioned there, I want to try doing that, then this conversation has been worthwhile. And I think this is what Scene Chat's about. We're all here, and I'm sharing my experiences. Hopefully people are sharing their experiences in the chat, and this is how we grow as a scene and we move forward. If there's one DJ tonight who walks away with one nugget of information, we've done that. It's been worth the conversation. If you're brand new and you're still, and I still see it all the time, you're playing plan sets, and you and again, I know that there is younger DJs out there who they get their first bookings and they right, okay, I'm playing this gig, it's going to be a gig of my life, this is going to make me, and you're in your room and you're playing your hour set, and you've got everything down to a T. You're going to play this tune, then this tune, then this tune, this tune. All I'm saying is, please bear in mind that your set of time might change. Your tunes that you think are going to work might not. So bring backup tunes just in case. Don't be scared. If you know that you've got the capability to mix one tune into another, then bring those other tunes with you. Don't feel like you need to have the perfect set first time. I would rather hear a sloppy mix that keeps a dance floor full than a pristine polished mix that you just playing to nobody because you've cleared a dance floor. That's my sort of one lesson I'll take away from this. Something, I was going to ask some questions in here, but I think I'm going to save them for next week, because I think for the Scene Chat this week, the topic of the week has been, I think this is what I want people to walk away and talk about this week. I had 3 lined up, but I'm not going to change the direction of the flow of the conversation. I think this has been pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close up today with just a quick one of, if you've got any questions, and obviously I'll leave the link in as I usually do to to the description and things like that. If you've enjoyed it and you feel like there's somebody who would also enjoy it, obviously share it with them. You don't need to share it on your socials. You can share, send it on WhatsApp to your mate and go, "Oh, he's just been sat and talk about his planning his DJ sets for an hour. Check this out. Go for it." If you've got anything you want to get in touch about and feedback on, feel free to get in touch. There's been people reaching out to me saying who's been watching these saying, didn't really see you as an approachable type of guy until I started watching these, and I wanted to book you for a while, but we don't know each other, things like that. So people have become seem me as more approachable now once they realise that my resting bitch face is just a resting bitch face. I don't mean I don't mean anything nasty to anyone or anything like that. I'm just literally walk around with a face like this. So I'm very approachable. I'm equally shy. If I don't know you, you won't get a lot of words out of me. But as soon as you start talking music with me, we're on the same wavelength. I will talk your head off, as you can probably tell. I've sat and talked to a camera for the last 50 minutes. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. And one thing as well, just to finish off, can you drop a like on the video as well, because it helps with getting into people's algorithms. I've been Brad Riffresh, and I'll see you again next week. See you later.